Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-host on the net, and tonight we are reviewing The Good Things Devils Do, and there's chuckling in the background. Well, before we get into this this Halloween-inspired movie, not the slasher, but maybe the actual Halloween. Oh, just shut up. Let's go. All right. Also joining us tonight is the one and only Dave Dreher. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, we have extra people here today. What's going on?
We have extra people. This is going to be fun. I like your hat.
I think we're breaking COVID. Yeah. We're breaking COVID rules.
We're all 6 feet away.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got the distance covered.
6 feet. All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Mohr. Yes. Cheers.
Yes. We need more people like that on here to cheer me. I'm doing great. Always great to come back here, talk about movies.
That's what we do.
Well, yeah.
That is what we do. All right. Thank you. Also joining us is a special guest host from Decades of Horror, every single one of them. And Gruesome Magazine is, so you'll be doing every single podcast this week. That's awesome. Jeff is the one and only Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
Yay. I'm doing great. My wife's tired of turning off our streaming TV whenever I have to do a podcast because every other day. And I, it's really good to be on again with Christopher G. Mohr, my brother from another Motel Mother. Hell.
How dare you? How dare you use that title in my name?
All I'm going to say about that.
That's like holy water.
Yeah, that's going to come back. That's going to come back to haunt you. All right. Also, we have guest host Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead Girl. Crystal, how you doing? Hello.
Can you hear me? I'm trying to speak telepathically, obviously.
Which works great on a podcast. Just saying.
I know you can hear me.
It's just as effective as something else.
Wow. Yeah, and nobody's seen the movie yet, so they have no idea what you're talking about, but that's awesome. Yes, we are going to be talking about The Good Thing Devils Do. So what movie am I talking about? It is this one here. We are talking about, it's written and directed by Jess Norvisgaard. I think I have that right. The cast includes the great Bill Oberst Jr., Linnea Quigley, Kane Hodder. Those are three names you should recognize, and you may recognize David Rucker III. I don't know. Mary may have lost. No, Mary Catherine O'Donnell. I thought she lost her last name there for a hot second. No, Mary Catherine O'Donnell, Kelly Wilson Robinson, and Veronica Stoikova. The synopsis goes: Richard, a small-time gangster, is retiring. Before he must take one last job to steal money from a rival gangster's house. Miles apart, Melvin is a reluctant family man who has dreams of becoming a famous curator of his Museum of the Macabre. His newest acquisitions, the remains of the notorious Masquerade, a vampire born from the embers of hell, slain centuries ago. On Halloween night, their paths will collide, and they'll be forced to work together to fight a centuries-old evil with everything on the line. That's a pretty entertaining synopsis. But what we need to find out, is it an entertaining film? And that's what's going to be discussed tonight. What we do is our first impressions. We talk about the film a little bit, and then we wrap up with final thoughts, a score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. So stick around for all that. But let's do this. Let's find out what we thought. And Jeff Mohr, sir, I like putting you on the spot. What is your first impression of The Good Things Devils Do?
So for me, this is a film that you have to, for me, I had to go into this knowing kind of what I was getting into and taking it with a little bit of a little grain of salt. It's a low budget film with some stars that are well known in horror, which you've already mentioned, Bill Oberst Jr., Linnea Quigley, and Kane Hodder, and at the same time given some exposure to some other actors. The biggest issue I had with it is that I felt like the editing or the story continuity seemed a little bit disjointed, like there were some connecting shots that were missing like I had to kind of orient myself. All of a sudden it would jump, and I don't know. I guess maybe an example would be towards the end when all of a sudden Mouse ended up in the car. But I figured it out. So at any rate, I thought it was a lot of fun. And holy cow, there's blood galore. And and we also have what I would call, well, we had Guns Akimbo earlier this year, which is a great movie. Well, in this one, we get Knives Akimbo, only they're duct tape.
Well, a knife and a
instead
cleaver.
of bolted.
Right?
It was
Knife and a cleaver,
I thought that was hilarious.
Yes,
Knife and a cleaver, I should say that, yes. Sharp objects akimbo, maybe.
Or Edward Cleaver hands.
That's good.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
There
thank
we
you,
go.
Crystal
There we go.
Mohr. All right. Up next is
But I had fun with it.
Go ahead.
I
Jeff, finish up.
was just tying it up. I was tying it up, but let's go ahead.
Tie that thing up. All right. Let's find out what Dave Dreher thought. Dave, what was your first impression of The Good Things Devils Do?
Well, much like Jeff, it's really not hard to recognize that. I think we were looking at kind of an incomplete project at its state that we're currently watching it in, because there was a lot of things that didn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hopefully, we're seeing an early cut of this. I think Crystal has alluded to such facts. There were some performances I really liked in this a lot. There were other performances that I felt were really, really weak. I don't know who wrote Kane Hodder's dialogue, but Jesus.
Oh my God.
No.
Holy crap. When he tells that dude, suck your daughter's cunt blood from, I'm like, what? And then the whole scene with him, when with the daughter and the mother, when he gets the phone call, again, obviously purposely written that way, but very disturbing. And he does a great job of presenting it, though.
Yeah, I believe him. I didn't have a problem believing him.
Yeah. But it still was rather jarring. I used the word jarring. The film was a little uneven. I'm going to blame a lot of that on the fact that I think this, again, was an early bit of a cut. I didn't dislike it. I didn't really. I'm not going to sing its praises much either. It was just it was an eye. It was all right.
All right.
It's all right. Yeah.
All right. Up next is Crystal Cleveland. Crystal, what is your first impression of The Good Things Devils Do? I have no trouble getting the title right, given that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I loved this movie. So, okay, I did hear that there were some sound corrections on the version we watched and some editing tightening. So there are some things on the final draft that are going to be fixed. But even still, for me, I found Bill, he's a master. I just think he was so good and authentic in his performance. It just kind of blew my mind. I love him. I totally am a little bit obsessed with him now because I was just watching him and I was like, he's so simple and so understated. And Kane, oh my God, I was a little shocked by his dialogue too, but I think some women, I'm pretty sure some women are going to be freaked out by it and maybe a little turned off by it. But I think it was to show just that he was the worst of the worst. Like he was clearly the very, very, very bad guy here. And he pulled it off and played it really well. I think some of the shots were just incredibly beautiful. I love the lights and the lighting. And it's a Halloween movie, obviously. Hey. And, the music. Oh my gosh. I loved some of the original songs. And that really, actually I was singing one of the Masquerade songs. It was really good. I do think some of the other performances were hit or miss, but overall, I think that everyone did a good job. Like I said, I liked toward the end when the story came back around, and then you were able to understand why he was doing what he was doing. I think the dad did a great job, at some points it was clear that he was you know. I couldn't tell for sure what he was doing at first, but that's not it. Then once it came around, I don't want to give anything away as far as like what is happening, but it's also a vampire movie, which is, I mean, you know, Halloween of Vampires is like my jam, but
Yes.
it wasn't, I just thought it, I don't know. It had a lot of different little homage pieces to a lot of different movies, like the daughter's outfit for Linnea, you know, for
Yes.
Linnea and everything. I mean, there was just, I think if you really look at it, I think there's a lot of fun, cool little things, like little Easter eggs throughout the whole movie. And I think that's really kind of awesome. I think this was, and it was funny. There were points where I really was laughing out loud. I mean, come on. That shit is so funny. Sorry. But that was funny to me. It's funny. It's funny. That girl was a mess and it was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we're going to go from a high to a low. I think Coach Christopher's over there shaking his head throughout your entire review. So Christopher G. Mohr, let us have it, sir. What is your first impression of The Good Things Devils Do?
Well, let me first say, I do respect a lot of the talent that they were able to bring together for this film. Like, I'm a big Linnea Quigley fan, Kane Hodder fan. I think Bill Oberst Jr. is a great actor. But I don't think any of them work as well as what they should in this. I think the biggest problem is the tone is all over the place. It seems to be a million different things. 1 minute it's a Tarantino film, except it's not as good as Tarantino. Other parts it's Exorcist. Other parts it's Night of the Demons. Other parts it's a trauma picture. It never figures out exactly what it wants to be. And a lot of times you can have films that, you know, are an amalgam of different things and it works. But this, it just felt like, and I mean, there's even parts of it feel like it's like Family Matters or whatever. The dad is like straight off like a sitcom. It just doesn't, none of those pieces fit together. It's like taking like 10 different puzzles and putting them all in the same box and they never fit together. But you try to force them to create something that's just a mishmash of a lot of things that doesn't work. And I think that's my biggest problem. And yeah, I laughed at certain parts mainly because that I don't think they were meant to be funny. I mean, when she's got like, when she's like Edward Cleaver hands and Bill Oberst Jr. is like, go pick the lock. And I start laughing because it's like, you're not going to be able to pick a fucking lock with a cleaver and a knife. I'm sorry. I was like, what? I almost felt a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to say embarrassed for it, but I feel like there's even like one scene, it feels like it turned into like a Christian movie. So,
What?
There's like
What are
the
you talking
prayer
about?
scene. It's like,
Oh,
Okay.
but no, I just thought that was but there is a lot of religious symbolism in like old vampire movies.
oh, there is, but it was
like a
there's a lot of Christian symbolism in my movies, but I don't that scene just, a lot of scenes felt kind of drawn out. Maybe that's part of the editing or whatever, but I mean, I think it was shot really well. I think there's some really use of light in certain scenes, but it's like 1 minute you're going to like, I did not like the Kane Hodder scene at all. I thought it was, I know some people like that kind of stuff. To me, it was shocking. And but I think it felt like it was like almost too over the top. You know what I mean? To where it's almost like they were trying to be kind of funny with it. And I didn't find it funny at all. And then there's also a shocking part I felt like was a little homage to The Exorcist involving the daughter. I was like, I could have done without that, but that's just me personally. Maybe that's more subjective, but I don't know. I felt like it was all over the place, and that whole mind meld scene I thought was stupid. It was just pure stupidity. And I was like, I was kind of scared. I thought they were going to kiss. And I was like, oh God, please don't go there. Please don't go there. But yeah, I love the villain, the creature, which kind of reminded me a little bit of Night of the Demons. I thought the Masquerade villain was good.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are other parts. I thought the violence was good, but in other parts, like where you see people stabbing them, it didn't seem it didn't seem right. It didn't seem like they were using a real knife. I mean, I don't know. Parts of it kind of threw me off. So to me, it didn't work. I really wanted it to with the talent that's involved. And I think it's shot really well. I think there's some really cool shots and stuff, but I think part of it was the acting, part of it was the dialogue. And it just didn't do it for me. And and believe me, I like sorority bowl. Was it Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl-orama, which has got, not got the best acting in the world, but it still works. And this, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because it worked for me. Okay. So I was a little concerned we were going to step into a train wreck, and maybe some of us did. But I found that I thought it was, right away it caught me going, wow, this is actually shot really well. And I was getting into the characters. I really like Bill Oberst in this. I liked Mouse, whoever played Mouse. Who played Mouse? Somebody tell me who played Mouse, quick. Mary Catherine O'Donnell. I have it right here. And I liked, I thought, because the family is played for laughs. The whole, the daughter. Well, I mean, literally, she's a visual joke too, right? Because the first time we see her, she's literally doing the shot from, what is it? The
Night of the Demons.
Night of the Demons. Yes.
Yeah,
I was. And a lot of this movie felt like that. It felt like an 80s or 90s kind of film to me, and I was enjoying it. Kane Hodder's came in, and he kind of, wow, okay, yeah, dude, you're a different kind of person. And it gets, it starts off with him in that basement with the, these two people, and he's just a maniac there. And I think they kind of, I might agree that they already proved their point there. They didn't really have to go any further, but they do. It gets really, he comes up with some graphic shit to throw at us and verbally, and wow. But where else are you going to get Kane Hodder trying to choke Bill Oberst Jr. to death right there on screen? That was fun. Come on. Of course, they're going to have him, Kane Hodder's character, go up against the Masquerade character first. A little bit of spoilers, but it's important because it establishes how, the villain. You're right. It needs to shift that tone, and I can see where they were going. And I might agree that they may have overplayed their hand, but I had a fun time. I thought I was actually laughing at the jokes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might have been laughing at things that weren't funny, but I was still laughing. Bill Oberst can scream all he wants. He's the scream queen in this movie. He was great.
Yeah, he's so good, right?
Oh, when he says, when I say run, and he goes, run! It's just this. I mean, they certainly have the moments that the Black Saint would be proud of. A couple kids, by the farm in this. He would have enjoyed that. And I will say that there are some shots, especially in the basement early on, that I thought were really good. And I thought anything with Linnea Quigley, I was really getting into. I usually always say, oh, we got these names, day players. We got day players here. And they weren't. None of these are day players. They are all crucial and critical to the film. And man, I can really appreciate that. No, thanks for not disappointing me there. And I didn't have a problem with anybody in the cast. Were they? Did they range in their experience? Yeah, maybe, but I still didn't have a problem. I mean, when you look back at some of those 80s films, there's people in there that were far worse than there are people here. I thought everybody, especially the main cast, I thought were all really good. And I liked David Rucker as Melvin. I thought he was.
Me too.
And yeah, you were saying it was like he did play it kind of like a sitcom.
He even called his wife Wheezy, like in the Jeffersons.
But her name is Louise. Her name is Louise. So.
I know, but he called her Wheezy, like in the Jeffersons.
Yeah, and I didn't catch that at first, but now that you say it, it's kind of obvious. And I liked our villain. I actually thought we could have gotten a lot more of her, and seen a lot more of what she could do. But she certainly does what she has to do. I do have some questions about it, and it might be the ending like that, but I'm going to wait for after the movie to talk to the rest of you about it, because I don't want to spoil anything, because they're very spoilery questions. But for me, I enjoyed it. I'm just going to leave it right there. I liked this film. Christopher look at Christopher. He's desperately shaking.
Okay, let me say something. I can't believe that I'm going to be the one defending this a little bit, but I do agree that Kane's dialogue is very heavy, but I think the reason why it doesn't mess with me as much or is nearly as jarring is because you don't see anything. It's all just his dialogue. It's his talk. You don't even see him. Well, I'm going to give something away. You don't even see him shoot her. You see the aftermath, but you don't even see him shoot her. So I feel like that helped soften that a bit for me. It's funny because I'm the woman and I'm like, hey, but not much bothers me, but it will definitely bother some women out there.
Yeah, it's going to be
to the point of they might actually stop watching it, which is unfortunate.
Some of his actions early on, his dialogue will trigger some. Yeah, definitely.
Well, with it being so sexualized, I think that's the bothersome part for me. That and then for that whole scene, they kind of played it with for laughs a little bit with the phone call, and I don't know. It kind of turned me off for a little bit there, which I can understand. That's the whole thing behind it, but again, it also just felt like when people try to do Tarantino dialogue and it doesn't come off as well. That's what it kind of felt like, at least to me.
That's interesting.
As we're talking, I think it wants to be more of a horror comedy than what it ends up being. And I think even Kane Hodder was supposed to be, that over the topness was supposed to be funny. You mentioned a line, Crystal. The one I loved was when she said, I'm not going out with him. He's a 40-year-old living in a trailer. And she goes, well, you're a 40-year-old. He goes, yeah, but I'm in a house.
I live at home.
There was stuff like that all over the place. The lock picking was obviously, and unless I'm taking it that way, it comes off as being ridiculous. I think there was a lot of that, and including all the parts where Masquerade is trying to control their actions. Because it doesn't really make any sense, because why not follow through on that stuff?
And I think it would have been better if they just went full hog on that, just go full on if that's what you're gonna do, just a full on, because 80s films were very extraneous with that kind of stuff, but this, you go from that to more serious type stuff and back and forth, and it doesn't necessarily work as well because you can't be that sort of hammy with certain things and it doesn't weigh the same. And so I think that's what it felt like, it just felt, that's why I felt like the tone was all over the place and it needed to be reined in a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. Dave, I want to hear from Dave, because Dave's been way too quiet. So Dave, step in here. Weigh in on this. Where are you at? And we always talk about gore with you. Did the gore at least bring the goods?
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, I think absolutely. And I listen to y'all talk about it. I think we're all in agreement that it's just a very uneven film. That unevenness put some of us on a scale of not liking it as much as others. I don't think it's really a thing of having defended it. It's an okay made product. It really is. I think they lost track of what it was they were trying to be. And it's evident, in the final product. I don't know if that makes it bad. Again, for me, it's just all right. But I think the gore was fine. The money that they allocated for it was well spent.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I don't know if blood comes gushing out of a belly like that, but I'll go with it. Whatever.
Yeah, what the hell? Why not? And our demon makeup was pretty good. And I like the sound that our little demon lady made, that guttural whatever the hell that was. It was pretty creepy. Again, I'm not going to waver much from where I'm at. It was okay. It was all right.
Okay. One last thing is, sometimes we talk about the characters and their motivations and everything. In a film like this, where like I saw it more like what Jeff was describing. It was meant to be a horror comedy.
Yeah.
Does
Sure.
is there character development here enough to justify anything? Everything? You just weigh in, everybody. Whoever speaks up first. Christopher, you want to say it. Say it. Tell us about the character development. Is there character development? I think
There's character development.
Well, there you
But
go.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I think the thing is I think also the unevenness happens with characters. You have certain characters that are more serious and try to be more emotional, whether it's Bill Oberst and his daughter, and then you have other things where you have Melvin's character, which is just a sitcom dad, having to deal with certain things, and some of his lines weren't, and then him having to deal with his wife and daughter. It felt like certain things like, oh, you're always afraid of the dark, and then it's more just like, these are things we can throw into we can create these certain character attributes or whatever to help with the story, but that I didn't believe a lot of it. So just that, even the argument that he has with his wife when he's wanting help with the coffin, I don't know. I didn't feel like there was any, to be honest, I didn't feel like there was any. The only chemistry I felt was probably between
That's
Richard and
interesting.
Louise. Richard and Louise, not Richard. Richard and his daughter,
Mouse.
Mouse.
No.
Yep.
That's the only real chemistry I felt. I think everybody else just felt like different characters that weren't really as attached as and I think a lot of that had to do probably with the comedic nature of the daughter who's 40 years old and dressing like she's a schoolgirl, and which just felt like more of a one note bit than a full-fledged character. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel any of that, to where that's why I didn't really sort of like if they'd gone one direction with it. Let's say they went full on comedy and they had all the characters bumbling and Bill Oberst was bumbling. I think that would have been a much more interesting direction. Or if they just went full serious, like if it's a normal family at home and these people are trying to break in and deal with stuff, that would have been great too. And I think if they went in one specific direction and instead of a million different directions, I think the film would have been better, at least in my opinion.
I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah,
like
I
I actually am completely. I totally felt like there's tons of movies, like even Shaun of the Dead is actually really funny and gets really serious, and I don't have a problem with that at all.
Well, I'm not saying that
actually
doesn't
think-
happen, but I don't
I'm
think this
saying-
works in this.
And with Melvin and Louise, that's actually one of my favorite scenes. It's actually written down as one of my favorite scenes, because when he's talking to her, I have a 40-year-old stepdaughter that's living in the house. I think they're precious together. I mean, I think that shockingly, I think he carried that scene personally. And I loved him. Yeah, I loved him. I just thought this movie was a lot of fun. I get the aspect of the Kane character, and I could see that. But as far as the rest of it, I just enjoyed the shit out of this movie. I mean, I thought there were a lot of parts where, like, just even Mouse's devil costume I loved. I just think it all was really good. I just enjoyed watching it. It was just a fun ride for me. I didn't take it. I guess I didn't. Maybe I just didn't take it that seriously. I don't know. I mean, it, had some serious moments, but it was just more because it was just so, I mean, it was obvious when he's there talking to the kids. I was like, oh, okay. When she's bent over and that's the first thing you see, you know what you're about to get. I mean, that guy comes out and he's like, hey, the worker dude. I mean, it was kind of, oh, okay. And then the few serious moments interlaced in that were just, moments to propel the story. I felt like, I don't know. I liked it.
I kind of side for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been fun. Let's wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score, and our favorite scene. We're going to try to we've gone over, so we're going to try to keep our final thought down a little bit. But before we do, if you like what you're seeing here, please subscribe below. Hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Either way, hit the bell if you want to be reminded, so please do give us some comments if you've seen this film, or if you want to see this film, let us know what you think. Yeah, just all that. But let's do this. Our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene scores 1 to 5. Dave Dreher, you're first.
I get to go first. Yeah, again, I didn't dislike this film. I can't say I particularly like this film. I'm going to give it a middle of the road 2.5. This is one you should probably watch for yourself and make up your own damn mind. Favorite scene I'm going to go with, and I can't say too much about it, but the fight scene between Kane and our Masquerade. Yes, I enjoyed that immensely, and I really liked the Kane Hodder character just in and of itself. Although the dialogue is a little brutal, I liked the character he played. He definitely came across as one badass dude.
Yeah,
he was intimidating. That's for certain.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
But he is intimidating.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Jeff Mohr, your final thoughts, your score, favorite scene.
I think, again, if you, at least for me, if you go into this thinking it's trying to be kind of a over-the-top horror comedy, it's a much better watch, at least for me, even though some of the stuff is hit or miss. When I look back on it, I'm thinking, I think I see what they were trying to go for there. I liked most of the acting. I really, I liked, and I'm sorry, Kelly Wilson Robinson. I thought she was funny as as Caroline, as the 40-year-old daughter. Just the little stuff prancing out with I have little hands, it was, I mean, it was stupid, but I laughed. I'm sorry.
Christopher.
So anyway, don't go on too long. Yeah, I thought the acting was good. And I also liked David Rucker as Melvin.
Me too.
He surprised me as how good he was, and what a crazy dad. We're praying, we're not praying. I've never prayed in my life, but now we're praying. I don't have a cross. I'm an atheist. There was just weird kind of roundabouts like that. I'm giving this a 2.5 as well. And wow. I am going to go with a gore scene, and I'm going to say the couple times Richard gets stabbed in the face.
Oh, yes.
They're two different times, but I like the.
Yes.
They did a good job having blood pouring out of wounds.
Let's just say I see what you did there.
But I'm fine.
All right, that's awesome. All right, up next is Crystal Cleveland. Give us your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
So I loved this movie. And actually, I know that a ton of you horror lovers out there are going to completely side with me. So that is well with my soul. And I'm going to give it a 4.
4? Oh,
yep.
Wow. Really?
Yep. I was going to give it a 3.75 because I really liked it enough for that. And then I'm actually giving it a 4 to compensate for everyone else.
No, not well. That's not fair. But
if we average,
it don't work that way.
It don't work that. But go. Yeah.
And my favorite scene, it is what I discussed. How when Melvin is talking about, I have this 40-year-old girl, and he's like, she's like a pet that we have to feed. I thought it was a riot. I thought it was hilarious. I just think the dynamic with the family was really funny, and I dug it. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good gore scenes, and I think the vampire looks great, but for some reason that scene, just the way he played that, he kicked booty in that. Like, I just felt it. He's like, oh, and then when she was talking about the dark, he's like, well, why aren't you? She's like, because you're with me. And he's like, oh, you could tell that was cute. That was so cute. I don't know.
All right. Well, there's one side of the coin. And I think that for all of you that are going to side with Crystal, there are an equal amount that are going to side with Christopher. Christopher, what is your final thought?
His face.
Your score, favorite scene for Good Things Devils Do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it on the positive side, it's shot really well. It's got some really nice use of lighting, framing, and all that good stuff. So I think it's shot really well for an independent film. So regardless of what you think about what I might think about the content, I think it's shot really well. And I really love the villain of Masquerade. I think that's the only character I could really relate to.
Oh, nice. Nice.
To be honest, because I would love to have killed off all the characters.
Oh wow.
Oh, I like that.
So speaking Spanish while I do it. Yo quiero Taco Bell. But I really think, you know, and to what Crystal was saying about like horror comedies. If you know me, I'm a big fan of horror comedy, and I think you can balance the two. But sometimes you can also unbalance it because you don't really find that right sweet spot between the two. And this one doesn't. This one is a mishmash of different things. It's it tries to be so many different things, but doesn't really accomplish everything well. Except for maybe the horror aspect of it. I do love some of the I mean, I love the villain, although some of her screams sounded like little kids screaming in parts, which kind of
I wonder if it was.
I don't know if that, maybe it is. But then because when I first heard it, I thought there was kids screaming outside because it was trick or treating. But then I was like, oh no, that's your scream. So I don't know. Maybe they've changed the sound design since then, but I don't know. But again, it's almost like a Frankenstein of many different parts that kind of falls apart by the end of it, and even it ends in a very weird, that doesn't make sense type thing. You know, I mean, everything from the logic of like turning your daughter into Edward Cleaver Hands to there's just a lot of weird stuff that doesn't make sense. You know, from just going like extremely, you know, crazy mean spirited with the Kane Hodder to the comedic aspect of it. It just didn't gel for me. And usually I'm the kind of person that likes that kind of stuff, but this didn't work. And I'm kind of disappointed because I think there's so many great actors that are part of this. I really weren't really utilized to their best. So as for rating,
Oh, right, here we go.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to change my rating because of Crystal. No,
Take
just go really low.
Take
no.
a point off. Take a point off.
I want to be nice, but
Do it. You be honest. Not nice.
Be honest.
I will give it. I'll give it a 1.75.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I will give it. I mean, you have a lot of indie films that aren't shot well and aren't able to pull off like a good villain type thing, and I think this film does that. So I'll give it more points that I'd normally do based on the content, because I'm usually more style of substance type person to begin with. So as for favorite scene, I think my favorite scene is when Masquerade's using her force powers as an evil Jedi.
Of course.
There's the part where Bill Oberst, she's trying to force him with a knife to his throat, and in the window of the door, you see her hand going like that. And they also do a really cool thing that kind of remind me, I forgot which Stephen King movie it is, but you see the shadow of the boy outside the door as well.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime they do that, but I love that where you see her, just the shadow of her hand outside the door. I thought that was visually, I think that's one of the standout moments of this film. I think those visual flares kind of make it better than some indie films just based on the visuals alone. But I think content wise, it definitely wasn't where it needed to be, at least not for me.
Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah, I wouldn't be too far from you, Christopher, to say that there could be some tightening up of the edit, and that might be just the version we saw, and tightening up the ending to make it a little, so it wouldn't drag after the, it kind of has it kind of keeps going after it should end. It's like, wrap it up, let's go. But at the same time, getting there, I really enjoyed this. It made me part surprised that I'm so happy with this, because I was afraid we were going to get a train wreck. I hadn't really didn't know much about the film, didn't know where it was coming out of, and but I was. Yeah,
Well,
I was
this is his first feature film.
First feature for Jess.
Oh yeah.
And I was also expecting our name stars to be day players, and they weren't. And that I was very pleased with, and I thought they all were good. I really loved Bill Oberst in this, and this might be one of my favorite performances of his because he gets to scream so much, and I love it when he screams because he has this high pitched wail of a scream, and when he gets stuff happening to him or he's telling everybody to run, it's just, oh my gosh, more of that. I didn't have any problems with any of the cast. I enjoyed it. I thought it was. I will agree that at some points it's going for slapstick, and other points it's going for this over the top kind of brutal humor, if you will, which I don't. Yeah, and I kind of see where it may be too diverse in that. And it'll be curious to see how people react. Each person's going to react a little different to it. I'm going to give this. I was going to give it a 3.5. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with 3.5. And my favorite scene is in the basement shortly after Linnea Quigley's character. What was her character name again? Louise. That she goes, she pulls out the steak, and it's like I think it's like a chair leg or something. And she just gives him some shit. And then, shortly after that, we get the rise of the vampire.
But what about the fact that she was able to lift that by herself and put it away, they were having so much trouble? That was hilarious.
I thought that was funny. I was like, of course she is. Of course. That's, but I just loved how that was shot. And she's sitting there screaming. She's almost like, Abbott Costello, like, hey, check. And Dracula's popping up behind her. I was really into it and loving it at that point. That's me. Yeah. This is interesting. We don't always get so diverse, but I'm glad we do actually here because this film might deserve it. So
I think it's polarizing. I think it's either you're going to really just enjoy the ride, or you might just think it's the worst. I don't know that anyone will think it's the worst because, like Christopher said, visually it's very beautiful in some spots, especially. I mean, it's a nice looking film.
Yeah, but we do know that in horror, it is very subjective. Me and Jeff know that really well.
Yeah,
comedy is very subjective too.
You have your Motel Hells.
Yes, or Phantom of Paradise, even,
which I think is hilarious.
All right. Well, there's our review of The Good Things Devils Do from director. And I'm pausing, Jess Norvisgaard. And I just take my time pronouncing it, but starring Bill Oberst Jr., Linnea Quigley, and Kane Hodder for all you fans out there. All right. Crystal, Jeff, thank you for joining us here on HNR. This was fun to have you guys over here for the night.
Well, thanks for having us. It was fun.
Yes, thank you.
This was actually really interesting to hear all the different perspectives. I say see because now we can see each other.
I know, that's great. And Dave, Christopher, of course, thank you for joining me as always.
Oh,
of course, you call, we come running.
Yeah, I like that. Makes me feel good. All right, with that, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.